What's up, it's Jim from Samples, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can create really powerful and unique euphoric leads in Serum 2. I'm kind of going to give you a blueprint and some effects that you can use to always dial in that euphoric lead sound. It's kind of hard to do right, but after this video you'll know how. And before we do that, a quick apology to everyone who's been watching and went like, this motherfucker is way too fast, I cannot follow along, so we're changing things. New year, new Samples. Everything will be more structured and easier to follow. And to enhance that more, you can click on the link below and instantly download the template or preset that I'm working on to follow along. No emails, you just go to the website, click on a button, and it's on your computer. Secondarily, I sit down sort of every video and create a mini sample pack for you guys. And in this case, you can download the Serum 2 preset pack with euphoric leads alongside some new euphoric melodies instantly. No email required, just click on the button and you have it. Let's get right into it. I loaded up a melody and one of the presets that we're kind of aiming for, and this is what it sounds like. So let's first initialize the preset menu in it preset. I'm first going to show you how you can set up these leads in terms of mixing and routing. And if you already know how to do that, just skip along to the chapters where I explain the kind of euphoric effects that you can use to get these leads. But this is important because when you tweak small things in a dry mode, you can't really hear them in context. So that's why we're playing a melody and we kind of have this whole chain in place to really understand and hear what we're doing. And it's important, you know? We start off with a normal oscillator on a saw wave. Pitch it up 1 octave and put it on mono and legato with some portamento timing. This is going to allow us to glide between notes. So we open filter 1 and we take envelope 2 down a bit so it's the shape of like a pluck, and take the curve down a bit. Add that to the cutoff here and then click Shift Alt click. It's going to allow it to be unipolar instead of bipolar, and then we just kind of make it go like this. Now I want this to go from a pluck to a lead. How you do that is just with a macro assigned to the cutoff now, and you open it up. But listen that if I keep playing it, you think you have a lead, but it still cuts it off because it just goes down in the filter. So to counteract that, I'm going to also add this macro to the mix here and take that down. So that means the filter is open while it's in pluck mode, and it will get open once we're going to lead. But now you can see it's kind of blended already because the mix is reduced. So what we want to do is go to the matrix and affect the modulation here. And we just don't have to do anything except at the end. So now the mix doesn't get affected by macro 1 until we're at the last part, and then it blends perfectly. Once we've done that, I'm going to just disable the filter going to main, and we'll split it up by bus 1 and bus 2. So now we go to the effects, and bus 1 is going to be 100% wet delay. I really like this. And then secondarily, bus 2 is going to be our dry sound. Why I do this is because it allows you to kind of mix the sound between dry and wet. And at the end, you'll see it kind of creates a very cool, full sound. So in bus 1, we're opening up a delay on normal mode, and we're putting it on 1/4, 1/2 dotted mode. What this does is basically the left delay is going to hit after a beat and the right delay after 2 beats on dotted mode. Add a bit of a band pass here to cut off the lows and highs. And make sure that the delay is 100% wet because we already have a dry channel here. And to make this unique, I'm going to add a distortion on tape saturation to kind of make it a bit warmer. Now let's control the output of bus 1 with a utility and just take the slider down and then enable it here. This means we can control how much tape delay we want, basically. Then I'm gonna take bus 2, which is our dry chain, but I'm gonna make it wet with some reverb. This means that we can have our dry sound having tape delay, but also having reverb, but it's separated. So now I put this on Hall mode, take the lows down a bit, so we have not too many lows in the reverb, and let's put it on 100% wet for a second. Listen to what happens with the modulation of the reverb. If I put this at 100 rate, 100 depth, it basically is very chaotic, which is great, but I don't like it that much. So I take down the depth and then it's perfect. And you'll understand what the rate does if I take it down a bit, because now it's very deep but low rate. It sounds a bit drunk. You know what I mean? So high rate, low depth is perfect to create a very chaotic, overwhelming reverb. Now the decay needs to be around 6 seconds, so it really is a long reverb, and the size can go up a bit. And to make it breathe, I'm opening the pre-delay to around 100 milliseconds, so the lead has a bit of room to play before the reverb takes over. Then I'm gonna control the mix with a macro here as well. Finally, on the main bus, we're gonna add a delay, but now it's gonna be on ping pong, and I'm putting it on 1414, 1 undotted. And what this is gonna do is kind of just take our reverb and delay, and then add more delay on top, which makes it open up the lead a lot. I'm gonna control the effect amount here as well. So when we open all of that up, we have a very beautiful sound. So the final thing I do here to finalize the setup is we go to the compressor, and we add this on multiband. So this is gonna split up the compressor in multiple bands, but if we take down the threshold, we're kind of removing the downwards compression. So if you have a single compression, it's gonna be downward compression. But then if we do multiband, we have upward and downward compression. But I don't like the downward compression because it sounds very squashed and contained. I don't want that. And listen what happens. It doesn't do anything because it's not expanding the upward compression. And we can then really carefully dial that in by using the below here. And it kind of adds that modern, bright edge that you need to kind of really make these leads pop. And it's important you put the compressor after the delay and all these effects because it's going to help basically pump those sounds up once the lead is not playing because it upwards compresses it. So now that we have the main setup ready, I'm going to talk about 5 or 6 things you could always add to these leads to really make a lot of variations. And the first thing that is important to know is the phase randomization. I'm going to take down the effects for a second. If I click on the wavetable, we get the waveform, and there's a phase randomization section. If I take it down, it basically decreases the area in which the waveform can randomly select the phase point. You don't really hear that with one oscillator, but listen what happens. I put this one on 0. I open one more, same octave, and then I'm just gonna change the randomization from 100 to 0. And you can hear how it kind of tightens it up and makes it way more consistent. And that happens because of phase cancellations. If you put them at the same phase point, they're gonna be the same, and that helps really down these leads later, and I'll show you that in a second. Now we're gonna do the first effect that really works well. So in the LFO, we can put this on the Chaos Lorentz mode. And if we put that on a Hertz 100 and assign that to the coarse pitch here, it sounds like trash. So in the matrix, we take down the amount with output. But it's a bit unstable because we gotta go faster. So I put this on 10x, so it goes to 1000 Hertz. And that is way better. Now that we have this, let's talk about the second effect, which is gonna be a pitch wobble. You can put the LFO 2 on free mode, so it's always gonna be playing. I did the same thing in LFO 1. And I put this on like 7 to 8 Hertz. Then, instead of assigning it to the pitch of one oscillator, because I might add more oscillators later, I'm putting it on the matrix right here, and I'm gonna put it on global, main tune, and open it up. But make sure it's on bipolar, because otherwise it's gonna be off key, off center. Take it down. Here's the cool thing. We can enable the effect so it doesn't hit immediately, but then during the lead it opens up. So LFO 3, shape it like this and put it on envelope so it only plays once. And then assign that to the aux source. As you can hear, it doesn't do anything in the beginning, but it opens up at the end. So put it on Hertz so you can really control how fast the effect hits. And it will depend on the pace of your melody. So the third effect that you can do is take envelope 3, take that down, make the curve go like this so it's very tight, and take down the decay. Then assign that to the coarse pitch. Shift Alt click to make it unipolar. It adds that playful click that you sometimes need for these euphoric leads. So once you're done with those 3 things, you can get into the next stage, which is adding white noise and distortion together. Add the noise, change it to color white, so it's pure white noise. Make sure there's no stereo because we don't want to really muddy up the left and right channel. And make sure that the noise goes to filter 1, so that it's split up in 1 and 2. Right? Now you don't really hear much, but if you go to Effects, Bus 2, where the dry sound is, and we add 3 distortions, because we can now stack that with Serum 2, I'm going to show you how cool this is. The 3 ones you kind of want to go for is Tube, Diode, and Hard Clip, but it doesn't really matter. You can really play around with these, but stack distortions, it really adds character. So the Tube distortion is kind of going to round out the sound, and you can see that happening if I take the waveform here, put it on Distortion, Tube, you can see how it kind of makes it a square, and it adds those mid harmonics, sort of that smooth sounds that we want for Euphoric Hardstyle. But don't add it too much. So then Diode 2 is going to kind of create a squeeze. Don't add it too much. And then finally we have a hard clipper that we can add to kind of enhance the highs, and it's going to just add a bit of overtones, and it's good to make it more in your face. But do it in a subtle way. So now when I take everything together with the tape delays and the reverbs, and the reason I created bus 1 and I split it up is because now we have kind of a dry saw, as you can hear right here, going through the delay. And then we have a channel where we actually have that distorted version. And the blend between those is actually kind of interesting. It's very full. So if you don't want that, you just don't want that weird kind of split up between the saw sound and the distorted sound, just take down bus 1. And then in bus 2, just add a delay and put the mix on like 35% after the distortions. You're not really going to get that warm tape delay because we can't distort the delay separately, but it is pretty cool. Let's keep the original one that I made. Now we've kind of dialed in the Euphoric lead, but we're not done yet. You can take it to the next level by taking the Serum 2 wavetables and then changing it to something more analog, because it's gonna add these kind of imperfections and artifacts or whatever. The waveforms are way better and they sound better, because listen to this. It's still sort of a saw wave, but right? Pretty cool. While I'm listening to this, I can also improve the mix, because what I hear is kind of the sizzle, and that's because of the white noise and the distortion coming together. So I'm adding a filter in front of the distortions on MG low 6. I'm just gonna round out the highs. Before, it just smooths it out a little bit. So this is the most important part, and that's why we did the phase randomization. You can really tweak the sound so much by just changing the unison here. So we're gonna introduce more voices and how they're detuned. Listen to this. If you detune it too much, it gets greasy, sort of, so we kind of don't really want to do that. This is really good. It adds that kind of movement, phasing sound that you need in these leads. And especially if I take down the blend, the mix between detune, blend, randomization, you can make a lot of variations. It's beautiful. So you can add another oscillator on top, and this one kind of really play around with the phase between the two of them. So put the randomization on 0 of both of them first, and make sure that oscillator B goes through the filter here too. See how they're kind of just phasing together? And some work better than others. So scroll through the saw waves and find something that works really well for your lead. Then add back the unison. And maybe add the chaos mode on top of the coarse pitch here as well. Matrix, take down the coarse pitch. Let's add that click effect here as well with envelope 3, Shift Alt Click unipolar. And then instead of using a saw wave, we can now go to S2 tables, and we can find something that has a lot of overtones like this. Hear how that's adding like very interesting euphoric overtones, I guess you can call it like that. It's important because now you can create a lot of different sounds solely by changing the unison and detune amounts, changing the phase positions, and then just really play around with that and dial in the leads that you want. A cool trick that you can add here is also in front of these distortions, you could kind of add a little bit of equalization to boost frequencies. Look. And then you really get that mid-Z euphoric sound. All of that combined, it's like 5, 6, 7 stages that you can go to. I just created a bunch of these and you can download those for free. And then you get stuff like this. Right? Really cool. One thing that I kind of forgot to mention is make sure you open the release sometimes. It gets really interesting. So here's what the final preset will sound like. If you found this helpful, please leave a like and a comment. And if you want to see anything else or have any suggestions, please let me know in the comments as well. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Cheers.